Hey YouTube, it's Ben with the 60-gallon cichlid tank, and let's talk today about oxygen. I've been doing some reading on the subject of oxygen, and it's pretty fascinating. I'm always learning, always reading, and when I come across things that are interesting, I like to share them with you. So let's talk a little bit about making sure that your fish can breathe, because as you know, breathing's a little bit important, right? Okay, let's get started. Well, as you know, as the fish take in water, as they pass water over the very thin membrane of their gills, they take oxygen out of the water and they release carbon dioxide, CO2. Now that CO2, as it builds up, leaves the tank and is replaced by oxygen with surface agitation. See the surface breaking up here? All of that surface agitation, the purpose of it is to actually allow CO2 to escape. And after it escapes, it is replaced by oxygen. And that oxygen then is what keeps these fish nice, healthy, and colorful. They, if you see your fish gasping at the surface, chances are that your tank is not getting enough oxygen. Or if in their day-to-day activities, as just swimming around, you notice that that they seem to be working their mouths a lot, like they're gasping, even if it's not at the surface, you might be a little low in your oxygen. And the way you can handle that is to create some breakup of surface tension so that CO2 can escape and oxygen can get in. By the way, that's a new male bucanodo. That bucanodo there is a fish I picked up from Nicholas Hernandez, Cichlid Junkie, I believe is his name, and he brought this fish over to me, and he's a beauty, and I'm hoping he'll get together with that this big female right here. So some interesting things about oxygen. Plants, which a lot of cichlid keepers avoid, because cichlids are notoriously hard on plants. But plants are really good for this whole oxygen issue. These are Anubias. Anubias, they come in varieties. There's different kinds of swords and other kinds of plants, and they actually they need the CO2 that is excreted by the fish. So the fish put out the waste product, the CO2, the plants take it in, and so they thrive on that. So they're good. They're good in the tank. They're also good at consuming nitrates, and I believe they may actually release oxygen into the tank. So plants are a big plus point. If you can get a hold of some Anubias, you don't need to plant them in the ground. You can attach them to rocks, and that way the cichlids can't dig them up. You can even use, like I mentioned in earlier videos, and I'll mention later in this one, you can use super glue gel and actually attach them to your decor. They do fine. They do fine. You can actually super glue them with super glue gel, and they will help to consume some of that CO2 that gets released by your fish as they're taking in oxygen and releasing the CO2. Now, let's say you're treating ick and you raise the temperature of your tank. What that does is that increases the volume and of evaporation. Well, that evaporation is occurring off the top of your tank where the water has the most oxygen. This is why when you heat up your tank, take it up in the mid-80s, let's say, in an ick treatment, it's recommended that you create more surface agitation, or maybe add a stone, an air stone, or something to create more oxygenation, because you will be losing some of that oxygen-rich water through evaporation. So you want to oxygenate water more as you raise the temperature. Another interesting piece of trivia about oxygen: if your tank is low in oxygen, the nitrification process, in other words, the process of good bacteria consuming ammonia, turning it to nitrite, and other types of bacteria consuming the nitrite and turning it into nitrate, that cycle will not be able to work as efficiently if your tank is low in oxygen. So it's not out of the realm of, it's actually within the realm of possibility that if you were to raise the temperature of your tank, let's say in an ick treatment, you could have a spike in nitrates. That would not be necessarily surprising, because that bacteria needs oxygen. It needs oxygen to carry out what it does with ammonia and nitrite. So, bottom line, keep your tank well oxygenated. Create a lot of surface tension breakup. If you like air stones and bubbles in your tank, that's a good way to break up the surface. And if you can create some movement, if you notice I have a little power head right here. If you can create movement in the tank, move the water around, and move the less oxygenated water around to the surface, and move the surface water down to where there's less oxygen near the bottom of the tank, that's all a good thing. And you can accomplish that with wave makers, power heads, things like that, to create water motion and oxygen. Okay? So, now here's something that makes a lack of oxygen very dangerous, and it's a bit sneaky, because what will happen is that if you have a lack of oxygen, your fish will die off. But when the number of fish die off that were taking up oxygen and using up too much, but now by them dying off, your remaining fish now have enough oxygen. So that's going to make you think that whatever the problem was, maybe it was isolated on those few fish. So you go out, you get some more fish, maybe a few months later, and what happens? You have some that die off again. Each time not realizing that it's a tank that is under-oxygenated. So it's a bit of a sneaky problem if you can't tell you don't have enough. By the fish dying off and taking your oxygen requirements down, you then have remaining fish that live, giving you the false impression that whatever the problem was, it's over, when in fact it's not over. And it will reappear when you increase the demands for oxygen. This is what makes this kind of a problem so frustrating for fish keepers. So that's it for now, and here's a quick update on the 135 project I'm working on. For those of you wondering where the tank project is at, I picked up a bunch of this stuff. I think these guys bought out Dr. Tim's, or Mr. Tim's used to be the best stuff for starting tanks. So I picked up enough of this Tetra Safe Start Plus. I picked up enough of this stuff for 135 gallons. So you need 2 of these. And so that'll get a lot of good bacteria going, and also got some wonder stones. These things are kind of nice. Ordered them off of eBay. Can't really see them because they're wrapped in plastic, but this one looks like a big piece of ham. But they're pretty nice stones, and I'll probably end up attaching some plants to them using some super glue gel, the way that Cory describes it in some of his videos over at the Co-op. Cory's, he has that aquatic Co-op channel. It's worth checking out. But these are some pretty nice stones. You can imagine how these are going to look underwater. I mean, they're going to be beautiful underwater. And I'll attach some real Anubias plants, which are from Africa. They can take the high pH, and the cichlids leave them alone. So I'll attach them to these rocks. So I've got that step done, and the tank is on the third day of leak testing, and there's been no leaks, just dry as a bone all around. So that's looking really good. It's holding water. So the reseal with black, the reseal in black took, and it's holding water just fine. So I think I'll empty it out tomorrow, probably bring it in the house, and bring in the stand. I have a neighbor who's agreed to help me bring in the stand and the tank and the hood, and we'll start getting this thing going. So that's the update on the tank, right, Lucy? Lucy. Alrighty. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you stopping by my channel, and don't forget to share and subscribe and set the alarm so you can get my videos when they're released. Get an alarm on when they actually become available. And I really thank you for commenting. I do reply to comments. Your comments are important to me. You know that I do respond to them. And hey, stop on by the Facebook page, ben.o.cichlid, if you'd like to get into a conversation with some good fish keepers, some good people that can help you along if you have any questions or would like to get into a discussion on things like oxygen, the nitrate cycle, things of this nature. All right, the nitrogen cycle. That's it for now. Thank you so much, and until the next one.